EC report reference section 5, building the peace. All in favour? All against? Carried. I would now like to welcome Fraternal Speaker Margaret Thomas, the President of the Welsh TUC. Thank you very much for your... Oh, sorry. A better chair than I am. The Standing Orders Chair needs to come to speak to conference first. That's the best about having loads of General Secretaries and Presidents up here. They're all watching me.
Delegates, we've drifted in terms of time, and can I ask your indulgence and can I ask for retrospective approval to make the decisions that we've just made constitutional by the following. When the Fraternal Speaker has spoken, that we will adjourn out and back in 10 minutes, and that we extend this session to no later than 5:30 to expedite the private session. I move.
Is that agreed? Agreed. Thanks for the slap on the wrist, Jack. Now calling on Margaret Thomas from the Welsh TUC to address conference. Thank you, Margaret.
Good afternoon, President, friends. I know you're running late, so hopefully I will conclude before the red light comes on. I'm proud and privileged to be standing here as President of the Wales TUC, and I send fraternal greetings from the Wales TUC and all our affiliates to you today and for the remainder of your conference. In the wake of recession and the longest decline in living standards since the 1870s, we in Wales share your fight against austerity. Austerity which has seen ideological dogma trample over so many of the agreements and hard-won trade union victories in many European nations and across the world. In fighting for better pay and treatment for everyone at work, I know the Irish Congress of Trade Unions is running positive and inclusive campaigns, setting out what our international movement stands for, and I've heard evidence of that today. Two strong examples in particular that stand out for us in Wales are the areas that you work on in relation to the Charter for Fairness at Work and the ICTU-led conversation on what ethical work should look like. The voices you've brought to the fore prove that our values are the values of ordinary working people right across our society, as well as those seeking work. It was heartening to see in your campaigns that young people in particular are demanding stable work with real protection and development opportunities. There's nothing outdated in these principles, and by asking a simple question, you've shown how union organising and campaigning go to the heart of the hopes and fears of working people everywhere. It's work like this that I hope we in Wales can learn from when engaging non-members and young people alike on why they're better off in a union. We've been working closely with your Northern Ireland Committee in areas where we've made progress in Wales, specifically making the case for progressive procurement. With the Welsh budget hacked back under Westminster Tory austerity, winning more training, apprenticeships and jobs through Welsh Government contracts has been a major priority for us. I'm pleased we've made concrete progress, which is now spreading spending across Wales. And this includes stripping firms guilty of blacklisting from winning public contracts, banning bogus self-employment through the use of umbrella companies in construction, and new guidance meaning that all contracts worth over £1 million must provide community benefits through local jobs and training. The real victory here in Wales is that those community benefits must mean jobs and training and not just a PR exercise to make a company look good without committing to providing real jobs. The Welsh Government has gained new powers from the EU to do a lot more to strengthen regulation, including the ability to place contracts with organisations that employ disabled and disadvantaged people. And we'll keep pushing to make sure that as much of our public purchasing as possible supports people into work that's decent. And we're doing more to support young people. After the UK government slashed the Future Jobs Fund, the Welsh Government introduced the EU-funded Jobs Growth Wales scheme, which has provided 6-month work placements for over 15,000 young people, ensuring that those young people get the chance they need to get a start in working life. And they've protected communities from council tax benefit and the independent living allowance from UK government cuts too. And part of this process, our trade unions have made and played a massive role. For example, Unite and GMB supported the Welsh Government in delivering wage subsidy support to former Remploy workers, which has delivered over 220 jobs for disabled workers so brutally abandoned by the UK ministers. Many of the policies are made possible because of our membership of the EU. And in Wales, we need the EU. So we will be campaigning for these opportunities, as well as protecting workers' rights ahead of the UK referendum on EU membership, particularly as so many right-wing politicians and employers line up their attacks on basic labour standards. However, colleagues, like you, the biggest task we face in Wales is, of course, the job of protecting employment in our public services against such a bleak outlook in terms of current and future budgets. Since 2010, we've worked together with our government to shield local government from the scale of cuts seen across other parts of the United Kingdom, preventing thousands of job losses in that time. However, we know that we need a more radical approach to protect and support our members for the longer term, as more cuts are due to come. This has driven our call for a One Wales devolved public sector, and we've been leading the way in making the case for a system that delivers redeployment and training across our public services to ensure the skills and experience of the workforce is protected and redundancies are avoided through better workplace planning. This is an approach that's built on solidarity and collectivism at a time when the very notion of a public services ethos in the UK is being put to its greatest test ever. After numerous stalls and false starts, including the threat of industrial action with individual employers, I'm pleased to say that the Welsh Government has taken up our call in creating a statutory Public Service Staff Commission to oversee long-term workforce planning, where redeployment, training and support is chosen over more costly redundancy programmes and attacks on conditions at work in the name of short-term cutbacks. We've also had success in fighting outsourcing by getting the two-tier workforce code reissued for Wales after the UK government abolished the measure to rapidly expand privatisation in England. As ever, the true test of all this is in the delivery, and we're in no doubt that we'll have to monitor every step of this if it is to truly work for our members. Colleagues, there's probably never been a clearer example of how we differ from the privatisation agenda now rife in England than in our Welsh NHS. The UK Tories hate the fact that in Wales we've maintained a fully public NHS, true to its founding principles. So much so that they've levelled a media war on Wales to undermine it. UK ministers, backed by their Tory-supporting newspapers, have sunk deeper into the gutter to whip up fear about our most loved public service. David Cameron capped these cynical and baseless attacks by describing the border between Wales and England as a line between life and death. Yes, colleagues, he said, live in England die in Wales. Wales TUC unions immediately issued a joint statement denouncing these attacks, and our members made the movement proud in stepping up to the fight. In this battle for our services, our movement shows the power we have when united and the platform we give to those who need us to win. Sarah Grinter, a young Unison rep, bravely spoke out in our campaign. Sarah works as a medical secretary, providing crucial communications between consultants and other NHS colleagues, but more crucially, to families at critical times. The pride Sarah has in her service to the NHS is inspired by the intense care she received when suffering from anorexia. And you can see Sarah's moving story on our YouTube channel, where she describes how Tory attacks on the Welsh NHS have damaged morale and, even worse, damaged the trust some patients have in the service they receive. Sarah and thousands like her are proving that Nye Bevan was right when he declared that the NHS will last as long as there are folk with the faith to fight for it. And comrades, we will keep fighting. Fighting for our members and communities and fighting against austerity. Our economy, like yours, is struggling. So our campaign for industrial strategy is aimed at tackling the perennial problem of low pay, just like you. Too many bosses are allowed to treat our economy as a sort of low-wage haven, and too many right-wingers are keen on selling Wales that way. Our policies instead build on creating an alternative with better jobs hardwired into our long-term vision that includes a new levy on employers to boost in-work training and meaningful apprenticeships. Friends, this is just a snapshot of the work that we're doing in Wales. Finally, as I finish, I want to recommit the Cymru Wales TUC to work with the ICTU through the Council of the Isles, and in particular with your North of Ireland Committee and the Scottish TUC in fighting this Tory UK government welfare cuts and demanding an alternative to austerity. Thank you for inviting me to your conference, and I wish you well for the remainder of your conference. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr.